inside of the alumina crown that is positioned over a zirconia abutment, at that time just with a little fit checker in between, no cement. You keep mapping, so this and this are secondary damage because in essence the prime event is here, but then this one comes in as a secondary event because it breaks off a portion here. And what is this? When the patient bit down, when we ask the patient, please bite gently down on my little red paper, the patient bites down, but you have something that is not cemented yet. You have a thin margin here. You have a pressure here. You have a hard material and a hard material in contact. Patient bites, it starts to break here, the patient continues to bite, and then it starts to sink in here and it cracks it off. That's the sequence. And as long as you don't show me a sequence like this, I'm unhappy with just 1 or 2 SEM pictures. The purpose here is that you understand that it's a systematic approach. You always have to know the whole story about the crown, not just one beautiful picture. Very rarely do we have a whole piece. Very often we only have portions of the crown that broke off. These are called chips. Chips in the veneering ceramic, not exposing the underneath the core material, whatever that is. You can secure that information by taking what we call a replica. Please do not use polyether. Polyether does not work with epoxy resin. You have to use anything else that is polyvinyl siloxane or silicone material, but you have to figure out which one. It depends on the reaction with the epoxy. Better ultra light, because the light material will show you information, but the ultra light is better than the light material. It goes more into detail. You have to clean that surface the best you can without touching with a metal instrument. You have to use lots of water flow and spray dry it. Use 2 replicas. The first one will still stick some plaque that is remaining in there. The second one is usually better. It takes 5 minutes for the patient. It's not a problem. It's not painful, and you don't need a whole tray. You just need to make a little mushroom over that crown so that we have the information. Then you pour epoxy. It has been described in one other dental materials paper how to do that. And then you have an information. You see wear facets. This broke after 4 years intraorally. This patient was pressing a lot on her crowns, although she had a night guard, which she probably never used. What's nice is to watch that we see immediate information. Here is the compression curl right here. You see arrest lines, you see heckle or twist heckle, you see the occlusal wear facets. You have, unfortunately with replicas, you have also artifacts, little bubbles. You have to just forget them. But if you try to figure out what is happening here on that occlusal surface from which the crack started, well, by the way, you can figure out, you have little wake hackle, lots of wake hackle here. So the replica shows you really a lot of information. Well, here we had 2 indents again. So you want to see indents, you can see them. But is this a cone crack? Not really. The patient keeps biting, and it was a party and it was a peanut or something. Doesn't matter. Something chips off here. That's definitely the origin. Which one of these 2? I don't know. It's right here. And you can see the whole image goes down here, another front down there. So yes, we can from fructography learn a lot. I just want to tell you that fructography can be applied also to in vitro testing, strength and fatigue, and you will be surprised. You will be very surprised. If you do bend bars, you receive them from manufacturer. I have a whole collection of horror of processing made by the manufacturer, not by me. These are all processing problems in zirconia bend bars that you receive from the manufacturer. You do your strength testing. if you don't look under the microscope what's going on, you will not be able to interpret why your Weibull modulus is low or why you only have a 700 megapascal strength instead of a 1000. Well, unfortunately, these are processing problems, pores from which the failure started in bend bars, sintering defects, processing defects, alumina inside zirconia. This is MgO, CaO, calcium oxide. Where does it come from? I don't know. It's a mystery. Anyway, it's fun to do fractography on bend bars as well. And definitely, what Jason told you before, I re-emphasize, you should never do any strength testing without fractography of each of your specimens. Once you have your Weibull distribution, you have to understand why this one failed at 732 megapascal. Well, there was a major processing pore in volume. And then all of a sudden you see that your population of defects, it's either grinding or processing. Sometimes it's a corner crack. Sometimes it's a pore at the surface. Sometimes it's a grinding thing. You need to understand the failure specifically in ceramics. Fractography is essential also for lab quality. You can verify if the laboratory has worked properly. For instance, this bridge failed after 9 months. It's a 4-unit bridge. And you can see that at the connector size, at the connector gingival side, we have sinter cracks. And the sintering was not capable of closing the cracks, which tells you that that crack happened in the green stage grinding, or in the oven at the beginning of the sintering with the piece that shrinks with a stress somewhere. Of course, you can see some grinding marks from the laboratory afterwards as well. This failure happened due to design, yes. The veneering, pressed veneering ceramic over a zirconia abutment was not sufficient. There was no zirconia abutment to stop the crack. This is just pressed nanofluorapatite. But the problem also was the pressing had a little pore and the dentist, so a little defect from the laboratory. And that defect here was from the screwdriver, if you know, if you're a clinician, if you do implantology, from screwing the crown on the implant. The implant was very buccally oriented. The screw, sometimes the hole of the screw is not matching exactly where the implant is. So we damaged that veneering ceramic with the screwdriver. So we already chipped off a portion of it. Then it doesn't take much more for the patient to break it 2 months later. And that case, Bob showed it to you. Dental technician, I went back to ask him, how do you sinter your last veneering ceramic? He says, oh, I take off 10 degrees from the classic sinter temperature, which is, I don't know, 890 or 920, depending on which. So why do you do it? Oh, because I'm afraid of losing the color, the aesthetics, etc., etc. It's a common thing. They take off 10 degrees in their last firing. So this is definitely a sinter defect. It may have some residual thermal stress, I don't know. I'm just telling you, fractography is essential for lab quality control as well. And the clinics, here's the clinics, and if you want to see chipping, you just have to ask Susanne Scherrer. She's going to provide you all the images that you need. However, I must admit, my chippings are mainly related to wear. I always see wear on the surface. This is an implant case. I don't remember if it chipped off after 6 months or less than a year, any case. Huge chipping. This thing here is here, but if you look closely, there is a lot of occlusal wear going on. These patients that have just implants all over the place, they have no perception anymore of their biting force. And believe me, they go powerful on it. And they grind, they wear it off. Is this enough to explain the chip? I don't know. The veneering ceramic is only 90 megapascal worth. The patient is wearing a lot. Perhaps there is some residual stress. There are lots of errors that can be done. However, as long as no one documents this in a fractographic way, we will not understand the chipping the clinical chips. So regardless how many models you can build up, you have to collect from NYU, from the clinical people, every chip that happens, every single chip. It doesn't help us to know that it chips with zirconia, a lot of chipping. No one documents it. They only take a nice little picture like this, but no one does fractography. So please, this is my question to you in Brazil, because you're very good, you already passed exam number 1. Please do fractography in your clinics. Take impressions. There are a couple of experts here who took the course. Someone, was it last year or 2 years ago? 2 years. Last year. There are at least 10 people here in Brazil that took the fractography course. Marcia is here. Paulo is here. I don't remember all the names, but I can tell you at least 10 people. You just ask Paulo, and Paulo redirects you depending on where you live. Ask the help of the university. I do it for free in my university for whole Europe. I don't get any money for it. I'm keen of getting the information. I'm asking the dental technician, please tell me what happens. They come, they see me, they show me their cases. That's how we can improve our knowledge. And that's my request to you, especially if you are linked to clinical dentistry, to get that information. Last but not least, Lake Geneva under a storm. Excuse me. Fractography is a really good tool for failure analysis. It should be used more systematically to understand failure, and most of the failures really can be prevented if we are a little bit more careful with the lab and with the materials we're using. Thank you for your attention. Questions? Perguntas?